Welcome to the Profit Talks podcast, hosted by the Orange County Inland Empire SBDC Network, funded in part by the U.S. Small Business Administration and the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. This show is the go-to resource for business owners seeking empowerment, education, and resources to succeed. Join us as we connect you with experts, share the triumphs of fellow entrepreneurs, and reveal the wealth of assistance available to you today to level up your business. So let's go. Let's dive in and learn more. This is going to take a while because we're going to have to learn a lot about human development and the military, and a woman that's with us here today who has somehow made a business out of both, helping military service members with their human potential, their human development. Welcome, if you will, and I'm going to let her introduce herself because I'm afraid I'm going to botch the name here. So tell us who you are and a little bit about what you do.
All right. Thank you, first of all, for the conversation. I really appreciate it. My name is Annemarie du LeBohn, and I'm based in Southern California. I have a company called TRIMACHA, and I provide human development training for the military, and we focus on leadership and resiliency skills that are aimed at preventing destructive behaviors, primarily drug and alcohol abuse, suicide, and sexual assault.
And I, having never served in the military but sat in the seat now for 15 years, hear stories about all three of those taking place in the military and more. I know it's a stressful environment. You're in combat. You're on a deadline. You're trying to do the impossible, make the impossible possible, as they say. Does that lead to, is there a lot of this in our service, and how do you help them deal with this?
Yes, there's a lot in the service, but also you have to remember that the service is a microcosm of the entire world.
Right.
The service is a revolving door, so every day people are enlisting, and every day people come to the military with their own set of beliefs, experiences, mindsets, thoughts, beliefs. And some of those people stay for 2 years, some of them stay for 20 years. But the goal of the military is to have everyone on a cohesive, ready for a battle mindset.
We do a show with a gentleman here who's a financial planner, African-American, he served not just in the Navy, but in the Army. I never heard of anybody that left the service and then came back and said, I'm going to try another branch of the service, and did that for a few years, mostly with the Navy, though. And he said one day, we were talking about on air, because he helps a lot of veterans after they get out. They're not ready to re-enter the real world. They don't know how to balance a checkbook even, or write a resume, or transfer their skills. I was a missile guidance person. What does that mean to get a job today here? So he works with a lot of them transitioning out. And he admitted in one of the shows, he has a lot of veterans come on, and he said, we do these big exercises. The fleet would deploy. People died, even in peacetime. It's a dangerous job. And he said, you just suck it up, you're tough, and and then years later, this stuff comes out. And he talked about it on Navy ships and stuff. One guy that just went off, and he was after an exhaustive tour of duty, and they just thought he was going to go rest somewhere, and they found him hanging from the rafters somewhere here. I can't imagine that stuff going on. Talk about what you've seen or what you're experiencing. I'm not saying that everybody goes through this, but it is a stressful environment, and you're taught not to deal with it in the moment, right? Because you're in combat, you're under orders, you're a tough guy. Talk about that.
Yes, everyone is basically taught to be a tough guy, but not everyone has the tools and the skills in order to deal with those environments that come along.
Right.
And especially if something has happened to that person as a child, if they've experienced trauma, if they've come into the military with PTSD for various reasons, and they don't have the skills to manage it under their conditions that they're currently in, it even makes their internal issues more complex.
In some cases, maybe that's why they came to the service, because they had trouble in real life, or they had problems in their family, or they're trying to avoid jail. I hear all sorts of crazy reasons people say, go into the military, and they're going to toughen you up, and this is your way, escape out of this negative environment. But you're saying then all of a sudden they're put under pressure, things happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So my hope is to give them the tools and the skills to be more mindful of their own emotions, to find ways to deal with some of these issues that are coming to the surface, and to find ways to help prevent these destructive behaviors.
So How do you do that? Is it a course? Is it a class? It's not counseling. You're not dealing with these people. You're not a counselor per se and talking to them one-on-one. What do you do?
Yes, I guess I have to go back to my beginning in regards to how I fell into this, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely. That was the next question, because I can't imagine how anybody transitions into a field like this. I didn't know there was a field like this. I assumed they did this internally.
You know what? I didn't know that there was a field like this either. Everything fell into my lap unexpectedly and took me down this journey. So it's really a great story. My story is really, though, it's got a bad beginning, and then it's got a really cool center, which is where I am now.
That's all good movies do. It starts off with a problem, and it only gets worse, and then somehow we ride along, and hopefully there's some hope at the end of the journey here.
Yep. I'm following that script. So my story really starts way back when I'm 18, 19 years old, and I meet someone who is a stalker, and for 4 years stalked me, and during that 4 years also raped me and tried to kill me twice.
Oh, my God. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great start that's a dramatic start to the story. Okay. All right.
It is a dramatic. And at that time, there were no resources available locally to globally. There was no such thing as an 800 hotline that I could call, that I could go to. I was also raised in an environment where you brush problems underneath the rug and you move on, and everything works out somehow, some way. So I didn't have those skills in order to learn how to process it, communicate it, deal with it, and to take my all of a sudden unhealthy mindset to a healthy place. 30 years I dealt with that.
And what kind of jobs did you do? You said you worked in radio for a long time.
Radio, I remember distinctly when I was like 16, 15, 14, listening to a woman on the radio for the first time, hearing a woman and thinking, I want to do that. So it was always in my blood to be in broadcasting in some way. And for many years, worked in broadcasting. For most part, for about 20 years, I worked in broadcasting. So a number of different radio stations. Then ultimately, I worked for the Disney Corporation when they owned the Anaheim Angels baseball team.
Oh, sure. Yeah. KCAA or whatever they call it here. Yeah.
Yeah. If I think about it, I'll come up with their
call letters. Right.
Yeah, everything at the time was a station. There was Spanish station, English station, and I was their broadcast advertising manager, and loved the job and loved the career, loved everything about it. So that was really what I had done most of my adult life. And
I'm trying to see how these two are going to intersect here. This trauma that you experienced and this successful career you had working in broadcasting, how that leads to today here.
This is something I rarely talk about in regards to this part of my story, but I was sexually harassed at the teams and reported it.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Okay.
And that guy got a slap on the wrist, and basically I got a hostile work environment. And of course, it's already writing on the wall. It didn't work out. So for a long time, floundered in regards to what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? This was all I ever wanted to do, was work in broadcasting, work in sports, always been athletic. And then I love, when I was struggling one day, my sister said, what did you like to do when you were 11? And I thought, when I was 11, I liked to ride horses and I swam and I was running everywhere, and it's a perfect foundation for a triathlon.
Okay.
And her philosophy was, my sister's philosophy was that whatever you like to do when you're 11, that's really your deep passion, and that you should try to follow that. And so
there's some truth to that. I have to think about my own life. We'll delve into that. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you can see how it plays. And so I decided to start racing Ironman triathlons. And an Ironman is considered the world's toughest one-day endurance sport. Athletes have 17 hours to finish the course. We start by swimming 2.4 miles in an open water, which means a lake, a river, or the ocean. Then we ride our bikes 112 miles, and then we finish the day by running a marathon.
Insane. Okay, but extreme.
Yeah, it's definitely extreme. But at the time, I needed to do something extreme to see myself as someone besides a victim.
Yes,
because
right.
That's how I define myself, as a victim. So Ironman just seemed to be the natural thing to do. And the ultimate goal was threefold. At the time, I was 49 years old. I wanted to see, could I turn a 49-year-old body into an endurance athlete? Could I do the race without getting into the medical tent? And also, I wanted to see if I could do the entire race without a negative thought.
Wow.
And Hence, that was the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
And so it took a year of really learning to discipline the body and the mind in order to be ready for the race day. And race day was absolutely amazing. I had a great time. But nobody really knew what those goals were when I signed up for the race. I didn't really share it because at that time I really wasn't talking about what had happened to me.
Yeah, right.
Only a handful of people knew what the true story was behind that.
And I love the idea of the hardest part isn't getting the body in shape. It's often getting the mind in shape. You can train the body. I don't know that I could, but I guess anybody could, to push it that far. But can you control your thoughts that much? That's what I've struggled with all my whole life. We're all trying to deal with that. I'll be the first to admit it. Negative. I grew up in a negative environment. I don't know. Worry about that. You know, everything. Always thinking about what's going to blow up. What's the worst thing that's going to happen here? I've been there.
Yeah, exactly. And, before I actually signed up for my first race, I saw a guy on his bike. Usually when you finish an Ironman, you get the Ironman logo. It's called an M dot. You usually get it tattooed on your body. And I saw this guy, M dot, tattooed to his calf. And so I said, hey, what's it like? Because I had been wanting to do this race for 10 years, but all my negative thoughts found excuses.
Can't do it, won't do it, shouldn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the guy said one line. He said, it's more mental than physical.
Yeah.
So clearly it is physical. It's the world's toughest endurance sport, one-day endurance sport, but more mental. And I took that on as a challenge. I thought, I'm having a hard time going 5 minutes without a negative thought. Let's just see if I do this crazy race without one negative thought.
And did that help you? Because you're so focused on the pain, the struggle, the next step forward. You can only think of one thing at a time. Does that help block out anything but, as they say, actors say, being in the moment, being present right here, right now? I can't think about what's going to happen next or what happened 10 minutes ago here. Does it help you push all that aside?
Yeah, that's part of the thing. I found a lot of great books on how to actually physically race. I didn't find one book on how to race without a negative thought. So I had to really learn how to be mindful, how to be in the minute, or in the moment, I should say, and to block out any negative thoughts that would keep me from getting to the finish line.
Right.
And sure enough, a year of training, I had a lot of negative thoughts that kept me or wanted to keep me away from training, but so I had to come up with my own techniques on how to deal with a negative mindset. And when the race was done, someone within USAT, which is USA Triathlon, within that world, asked if they could share my story in their magazine, which is an international magazine. And I said,
sure.
I had to come to terms with that. And, excuse me, I said,
because not everybody does want to share the story. That's a big moment to stand up and say, I had a problem and I'll talk about it here, particularly things like that. Yeah.
I didn't want to. I was one of those people who didn't want to do it. But one of my good friends is a guy named Matt Luke. And Matt Luke is a former baseball player. He played for the Angels and the Dodgers and the Yankees. And he and I are friends. And I went to him and I said, I don't want to share this story, but here's this opportunity. He's on the Dodgers Speakers Bureau. He speaks about anti-bullying. And I said, what are your thoughts? And he was the one who said, you got to do it.
Yeah.
You have to do it. Even though you don't want to do it, you got to do it because you'll never know how many people you help.
That's it. That's it. All right. So now we get an article, and I'm starting to see maybe the birth of a business here. Okay.
The article, then, of course, people asked me to speak, and I get one speech, went to another. Eventually, I gave a TED Talk, and then I was asked to give a 2-hour briefing from a survivor's perspective to the California Joint headquarters in Sacramento. And
what is I don't even know what that is. The California Joint Headquarters is what? Is it a state agency, a federal agency?
No, it's for the National Guard, the headquarters for the National Guard. And I'm just wondering, did I say that right, Jana? Yeah, the California Joint Forces headquarters in Sacramento. And they asked for a survivor's perspective. I had to give a 2-hour briefing, and I did. And in the room, now, she's retired as a major general, but at the time she was a brigadier general. And she spent some time with me after my briefing and encouraged me to take my briefing and turn it into a training program for the military. And up until that point, I had no idea there was even an opportunity, there was a need for this type of insight, because up until that point, really, people didn't want to hear my story.
Right.
They even when they gave the TED Talk, people
looking at their watch saying, oh, that's great. Oh, boy, this is getting a little uncomfortable. I'm not sure I want to go into this. Yeah.
Yes. So that was how kind of the birth of the business, and that was in 2017.
And am I the only person shocked? Anybody listening, nod your head or shake your head. I would think the military would have internal people who deal with this, not just after the fact, like at the VA through mental health or psychologists or psychiatrists or something, but in the service, they've got to see this kind of people breaking down, doing bad behaviors, stuff coming to the surface because you're putting people to the extreme, and that's when all this stuff comes out here. So I would think they would have they'd have it all dialed in. They'd know exactly how to do this stuff.
They do have a whole slew of people, wonderful people all around the world that help the active members with these issues. However, now when you're thinking about the federal government, which the Department of Defense is part of the federal government,
big.
Majority of their business that they divvy out is to small businesses. That's one thing to remember. Mm-hmm. I did not know that, but I have learned.
I think they have to. We had somebody on from the SBDC Contracting Center, and they talked about even in the state of California and maybe federally, it's like 25% they got to give away by mandate. They don't want it just to go to big, giant hospitals or whatever. They want to bring in small businesses. This is a mandate from the state, probably from the federal government too.
It isn't a mandate. They have a certain percentage of business that goes to small businesses. And on top of that, it's hard enough for me speaking about my journey. It's difficult for an active military member to get up and speak about their journey, especially if there's someone of a higher rank in the room.
There you go. Because they're always going to wonder, I don't know, do I really want to share this story? Are they weak? Are they going to give in to something? Are they cured? Are they okay? We had somebody who did a show for years with us. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole for a second. They said that mental health was the last taboo topic in business, certainly maybe the military. You can say, I got a heart attack. No problem. We'll help you. I got an alcohol addiction. Great. We love you. Keep coming back. I got mental health issues, thinking of suicide or whatever. Ooh, okay. Why don't you just leave? We don't know. Not only don't we know how to help you, we're always afraid of what does that mean? Are you not capable? Are you going to have recurrences? Whatever. I don't know if that's what you've seen, but yeah.
It is true, but not just in the military, but every walk of life. I could say I got locked in a library with a gunman, which is true, and people want to hear all the details.
Right.
But I could say I was shot at by a stalker who also raped me and strangled me. Nobody wants to hear that.
Nobody wants to hear that.
Details.
Yeah.
Not happening.
I suffered, and why I'm sharing my story, but you're sharing yours. I went through a period of depression. It runs in my family. I'm Irish, and Midwestern. We suppress all this stuff, and I went through a dark period where I was very depressed. All my friends, our family, just suck it up. Nobody wanted to talk about it. They certainly don't want to hear about it. And You're just supposed to somehow shake it all off or something here. It's hard.
Yeah. Exactly, and I relate to that. I've got a dual citizenship with Ireland.
You do? Oh, we love you already. With a French last name, you got a dual citizenship with Ireland. Okay, all right.
Yes. I completely get all of that. I really do. And so the military is looking for someone like me who is willing to share their story and be transparent and authentic about it.
Absolutely real.
Yeah, and my goal is it's really not about me. Yes, it's my story, but it's really not about me. But how can you take my story and learn from it?
Because you got to put some meaning to it. Otherwise, why did you go through all this stuff? God or whatever, or universe? There got to be something of value I can bring to this out of this experience. No, I'm with you. All right, so they said you started doing training, and did you know how to run a business? Did you know how to go apply for government contracts?
No, I had no clue, absolutely no clue. But I had the first thing, I had what is called past performance. So one military base is asking me to speak, then another and another. And some of the most difficult things to do within government contracting is to have past performance. So unknowingly, I went through the back door and was able to get this past performance. And I did that for up until this last year. So from 2017 until 2023, I was just as a sole proprietor. I was doing things. I was learning from the different installations that were hiring me about the lingo and about the process.
And was it just a talk, or was there training involved at this point? Are you just sharing your story and you're the inspirational speaker, the motivational speaker, or the speaker today here? Or had you developed your process into a teachable process?
It started off with me just speaking and sharing my story.
Right.
That's how it really began. But little by little, I started realizing that through conversations from various people at the military bases, I started learning, they would love to have some information on catfishing or wellness or non-fatal strangulation or self-care or resiliency or PTSD.
Wow, we could do shows on every one of those here. Catfishing, I always hear about that, and that's what you pretend to be somebody else online or something here?
Yes. There's a big problem with military members being online at this young generation and trusting somebody, doing some sexting, and then all of a sudden finding out they're being blackmailed.
We had somebody on, again, and I'm going to relate to this, a police officer who speaks to local high schools here in Orange County. And somehow he worked in this field of sex crimes or something. And he gave an example today that's one that's floating around one of these catfish schemes. This is 2024 if you're listening to it in the future here. And this was crazy. They'll contact some kid, usually in middle school, usually a boy, and say, I'm a cute girl, and I love you, and hey, I'll tell you what, I'll send you a naked picture if you send me yours. And the little boy goes, okay, sure. My little grandson or whatever, hey, I'm going to get a naked picture here. So they take a naked picture and send it. And you can imagine, it either gets sold or they get blackmailed and all this other kind of stuff here. The stupid things that young boys will do. And that's one floating around right today here. So there you go. Whatever you call that.
Terrible on how the perpetrator is only about the money and how they completely destroy a person's lives, even children kill themselves. Because
that's what he was saying. Kids end up because they can't tell their parents, oh, my God, I did this, and they kill themselves, 10-year-old, 12-year-old. Okay, so you're talking about topics, and you start thinking, maybe I can come up with some ideas on how to do this, like what I've done. Did you get training on this? Have you got an MA, a doctorate in something, or just life lessons here?
Life lessons. I'm an English major, and I have just different ideas on how to provide training on these topics. And so I started with one topic on sexual assault prevention, and then I started with another topic and another topic. And what I've done is I've gotten these courses. I have 13 now, and I've gotten each one of these courses approved by an organization called NOVA, National Organization for Victim Assistance. And NOVA is the Department of Defense's third party to approve the content.
To vet it and make sure this is real and it'll work. And they approve it. All right, so I got that. We're running through this. Could be a much longer conversation. It probably should be. But out of this experience, you started talking reluctantly, and this one opportunity popped out of the sky, National Guard or whatever it was, and suddenly you're in talking to other military institutions about your thing, about your experience, your journey. And it's easier for you to tell the story than somebody in the organization because you're just outside a civilian here. And then you start thinking about how I'm going to do this and give other talks and maybe some training and tips and ideas, and you get some approved, and you got a whole series of these. So now you've got this past, prior, whatever you called it, experience in doing this, past performance. All right, cut to the SBDC. How the heck did you find the Small Business Development Center? Where did you go to? Why did you go to them? And what did they do for you?
Oh, the SBDC has been amazing to me. Absolutely amazing. First of all, one of the SBDC's mentors really helped me tell my story for my TED Talk.
Who was that? We'll give him a shout out to whoever that was here.
Is Tom Patty.
Okay.
And I don't know if he's still with the SBDC, but he was critical.
What center was he at? What center was he?
Orange County Center. And he was critical. Here's the small world story. Tom was the president and CEO of TBWA Chiat Day, large global advertising.
Huge. Yeah, Chiat Day is about as big as it gets, right?
Yes, and he when he retired from there, he became a mentor for the SBDC, and I was calling on TBWA Chiat Day when I was with the Angels and the Ducks for the Nissan account, and so I knew exactly who he was, and I questioned how to tell my story for the TED Talk, or no, for another organization, the very first time I was asked to speak. And so I went to Tom, and he mentored me in regards to how to give my presentation. And because of him, I got the TED Talk.
Wow. Wow. Okay, there's a big ka-ching right there. All right. So you're getting that's what's amazing. There's 100+ consultants in this Orange County Inland Empire, whatever it is, division or something here, region. They're all over the country. But this region has 100+, and there are a lot of people like that. You go, wow, I'm talking to who? And some of them are retired, and some of them are active. But you get a powerful group of people and if they can't help you, there are people that specialize in lots of little things here, like government contracting. Did you go to the government contracting center at all? Did they work with you?
Oh, yeah. And it was because of them that they were helping me figure out how to secure government contracts. So I've really there's 3 different ways. I've been awarded 2 primary contracts, one with the Army, where I was working with 12 of their military bases, one with the Navy, where I was working with 60 of their installations globally. It's called OCONUS, throughout the United States or outside of the United States. And then also individual installations will hire me. And
you're one person, I take it? This isn't a giant corporation with hundreds of employees. This is you and your experience and your real life learning that you've done. And the giant military establishment says, not only do we want this and need this, we've got to assign certain number of these training programs to people like you, to ordinary folks, to small businesses, right?
I'm an army of one.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. And because that's what we've had the contracting center on, and I'm still amazed. I think that's not for me. That's not for you or us. That's for giant company that builds giant things. This is the giant military. And they said, no, they're like anybody. They need training programs, they need websites, they need janitorial services, they need all sorts of crazy things. And even if you can't perform it, maybe you're a subcontractor for somebody else who needs to add some small businesses to their proposal here. I think it's the untapped resource for small businesses here. We don't know it's there, we don't know how to get it, and we immediately assume, I can't do it. I can't get it.
And it's wonderful because they helped me figure out how to get certified as a total small business, as a women-owned small business.
Right. Certain extra categories, not your small business, but you're a woman, so now you're checking more boxes and more mandates and more things that they want to do. Yeah. Right.
They helped me figure out how to get my application, not really my application, how to get registered under an organization called SAM, SAM.gov, which you have to be registered with SAM and active with SAM.
Right.
If you're going to get any contracts. So
And how do you even find them? How do you even know what's out there? This stuff is out to bid. It's not in the local Orange County Register. It's not on, I don't know where this stuff is. They're looking and they're not reaching me. They don't know. That's why they go through organizations like the SBDC, because they don't know how to reach us and we don't know how to reach them.
Yes, for example, I had to have a NACE code. What the heck is a NACE code? You have a primary NACE code, then you have a secondary NACE codes. You have to have all of this information. And I had for the first couple of years, I'm just doing this as an individual and as a sole
word of mouth, and somebody says, "Hey, we should talk to her," and one leads to another, right?
Yes. So this year is the first year, big year for me, because there was a time last year where I thought, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. It's difficult to do. It's mentally draining to do. And I was burnt out.
And it's sporadic. You do one and then you wait for another one a long time. You got to pay the bills in between here. You've turned this into is this your full-time gig? Is this a real business?
It is. And it is. And in fact, I've learned to do other things besides me being the talent on the stage. So now I publish personal care journals, and I publish them and I sell them on Amazon. I can try to sell them within the military installations. And so I'm finding ways to partner up with other organizations. There's a lot more to this than just me being on the talent. So this year was the first year I turned my business into an LLC. I changed it to a name called TRIMACHA, short for triathlon. Macha is an Irish goddess.
I was trying to say, I knew that. And I'm big into Irish stuff and literature and everything. I didn't know that. Okay, you got me on that one.
This particular goddess resonates with me. Anyway, so it's been an amazing journey. Yeah.
Amazing isn't even begin to explain it here. I'm sorry that we're out of time and can't talk about it more. How you turned a personal tragedy into a whole new direction, and how, I don't know, maybe it was the universe, maybe it's God, maybe it's just good luck, but things fell into place along the way. And then when it came time to really take it, you found a resource like the Small Business Development Centers, and they helped you I didn't even know we had a guy that, I don't know if he's still with us, a guy who had been a big shot at Chiat Day and all the rest of that when they all merged together, this giant ad agency. But they helped you create a talk about it, how to turn it into a business model, and how to get all these accreditations and certifications you need, and the information and how to get into military stuff. You're proof positive it can happen. It really can.
And I have to tell you, the SBDC is wonderful because they let me have more than one mentor. I have one that's really looking at my business. I have one that's helping me understand marketing. I have one that's really helping me understand government contracting, how to write that.
There you go.
And
what's the cost for all this? Free. Unbelievable. Because the SBA and the state of California, they want to develop small businesses. We've all been talking this talk for a long time. This is the government arm that helps fund it. They hire, full disclosure, I do some work with them sometimes. People help me want to know about creating a podcast and stuff. And it's wild. There's 100+ people that on your tap. It's a team, not just one. And this isn't necessarily, some of them are retired, but most of them are actively doing something here. And you get people really in the moment, they really know what they're doing. They're there for you to help take your business to the next level. And it sounds like you went several levels up. You jumped high. Wow. All right, so what would you say to anybody who says, I don't know if I can do all this. I don't know if I can tell my story. I don't know if I can start a business. I don't know if I can do government contracting. What do you say?
I will quote the quote that was given to me on the day of my very first Ironman, as I'm looking at the water and frightened to jump in. The quote is, "Jump in, you're avoiding the inevitable."
I love it. All right. I hope you'll come back and give us an update next year on your progress as will you ever hire other people? Does this grow beyond you? Is this a firm? Is this a movement? Is this a TV show? Is this a book? I don't know. Who knows where this goes here?
It's inevitable that something more will happen with this. I'm not sure. I'm open to all conversations. I've stopped being closed-minded. I'm open to all conversations.
There you go. But I love that. Forget about worrying about if it can happen, and if it can happen, and will it. It's inevitable. Why are you putting this off? It's going to happen. All right. Thank you so much. I still don't know where the Irish comes in. Say your name again. I said it right once, and now I'm fumbling every time I think of it here. It's
Du LeBohn.
Du LeBohn. All right. That doesn't sound Irish. That sounds about as French as it gets here.
I'm French and Irish.
All right. Okay. We'll focus on the Irish half here, Irish part. Thank you so much for joining us. What an amazing tale. Inspirational, educational, motivational, all that stuff and more. Thanks for coming on our show today here. Oh, I'm sorry. And how do they find you? The most important thing. How do they locate you if they want to learn about what you do? Websites, phone numbers, everything here.
You can go to my website, TRIMACHA.com. That's TRI, short for triathlon, MACHA, M-A-C-H-A, TRIMACHA.com. And they'll find ways to get through to me there.
Okay. Thanks so much. All right. One more example of why we do this show. Thanks.
Thank you.
As we conclude another episode of the Profit Talks podcast, we hope we've empowered your entrepreneurial spirit. Reach out to us to connect with our experts, and let's take your business to the next level. Keep those dreams alive, keep pushing forward, and stay tuned for more. And if you liked what you heard in today's podcast and you want your business to reach new heights, just contact us at profittalkspodcast.org or call us at 1-800-616-7232. That's 1-800-616-7232. So until next time, keep thriving.